My name is Victoria Bennett, and on my father's 65th birthday, my own family tried to stop me from entering a luxury hotel that I owned. Not managed. Not worked at. Owned. And what happened next changed our family forever. If you've ever been underestimated by the people who were supposed to believe in you the most, stay with me. Because this story isn't just about success. It's about what happens when people spend years convincing themselves you're less than you really are. I grew up on Chicago's North Shore in a family where approval was a currency, and my younger brother Ethan always had plenty of it. Ethan was charming, confident, the kind of person who could walk into a room and instantly become everyone's favorite. My mother loved that about him. My father rarely challenged it. And over time, our family developed an unspoken rule. Ethan was the future. I was the afterthought. When Ethan made an average presentation in high school, my mother told everyone he had leadership potential. When I earned straight A's while working evenings and weekends, she called it nice. When Ethan talked about his dreams, people listened. When I talked about mine, people smiled politely and changed the subject. I became fascinated with hotels at an early age. Not because they were glamorous, because they were systems. I loved watching how hundreds of moving parts came together to create a flawless guest experience. The first time I said I wanted a career in hospitality, my mother laughed. "Why would you aim so low?" she asked. That sentence stayed with me for years. While Ethan received financial support, a car, and endless encouragement, I worked my way through school, community college, part-time jobs, night shifts, double shifts, no shortcuts, no safety net, no applause, just work. And eventually that work began paying off. I started at a hotel front desk, then reservations, then operations, then management, then strategy. I learned every corner of the business. I learned how hotels succeeded. I learned why they failed. Most importantly, I learned how to fix them. Years later, an opportunity appeared. A struggling boutique hotel in downtown Chicago. Beautiful building. Prime location. Terrible leadership. Most people saw a dying business. I saw potential. I poured everything into turning that property around. My savings. My time. My energy. My reputation. For nearly 2 years, I practically lived inside that building. And slowly things changed. Occupancy increased. Reviews improved. Events sold out. Profits grew. The hotel transformed from forgotten to exceptional. That hotel became the Sterling Grand Chicago. And eventually, I became the controlling owner. From there I expanded. Milwaukee, Detroit, Indianapolis. Property after property. Deal after deal. Eventually I founded Summit Hospitality Group. But my family never really knew. Or maybe they never wanted to know. As far as they were concerned, I still worked in hotels. That phrase became their favorite description of my career. It kept me small. It kept their assumptions intact. So I stopped correcting them. Then came my father's 65th birthday. 6 weeks before the event, my mother announced she wanted a luxury celebration. After reviewing several venues, she chose the Sterling Grand, my hotel, without realizing it. I could have told her immediately. Instead, I quietly called my general manager, Sophia Carter. I instructed her to provide my family with the finest private dining room available, premium whiskey, customized menu, exceptional service, luxury upgrades. I personally covered much of the cost. No one would know. Not yet. A few days later, Ethan called me. He wasn't checking on me. He wasn't inviting me. He was giving advice. He warned me not to embarrass the family. Then he joked that if I couldn't afford my portion of the dinner, he would cover it for me. I remember looking out my office window after that conversation. Not angry. Not hurt. Just certain. Certain that some lessons can only be learned firsthand. The night of the party finally arrived. The Sterling Grand glowed under warm lights. Valets moved with precision. Guests filled the lobby. Everything was perfect. I intentionally arrived separately. I wanted my family relaxed, confident, comfortable, certain they were in control. I stepped from my car wearing a simple black evening dress. The doorman nodded respectfully, exactly as instructed. As I approached the entrance, the glass doors opened. And there was Ethan, waiting, smiling. That smile. The one that always appeared whenever he believed he had the upper hand. "Victoria," he said. You actually came. Of course I came, I replied. It's Dad's birthday. Then he stepped directly in front of me. This really isn't your kind of place. I stared at him. Move. Instead, he widened his stance. A few nearby guests began watching. Then my mother appeared. Without asking questions, she immediately assumed I was causing trouble. Please don't embarrass us tonight, she whispered sharply. We have important people here. Important people. Those words again. Always the same. Always implying I wasn't one of them. Then Ethan lowered his voice. If money's tight, I can cover your share. Several people nearby heard him. A few smiled awkwardly. He thought he was helping. Really, he was performing. Then everything changed. Across the lobby, Marcus Reed, my head of security, began walking toward us. Calm. Focused. Professional. Ethan noticed him and smirked. He thought security was coming to remove me. Marcus reached us. Stopped beside me. Then looked directly at Ethan. Sir, he said calmly, I'm going to need you to step away from Ms. Bennett. Ethan blinked. Marcus continued. You're blocking the owner from entering her property. Silence. Complete silence. The kind that makes every sound suddenly feel louder. Ethan stared. My mother froze. Neither seemed capable of processing what they'd heard. Then Sophia Carter approached. Good evening, Ms. Bennett. She smiled professionally. Your father's event is fully prepared. The whiskey you selected has been placed in the private lounge. The kitchen is timing the final course according to your instructions, and the anniversary photo display is ready. My mother's face drained of color. Your father's event? She whispered. I finally looked at her. Calmly. Yes, Mom. The event I arranged. The upgrades I paid for. The private room I secured. The dinner you've been bragging about all week. Ethan shook his head. No. His voice sounded smaller than I had ever heard it. No, you work in hotels. I met his eyes. I own this one. The words landed like a hammer. Suddenly the entire lobby shifted. Staff members straightened. Guests recognized me. Employees greeted me. The building itself became proof. For years my family had ignored my success. But they couldn't ignore an entire luxury hotel acknowledging exactly who I was. For the first time in their lives, reality was stronger than their assumptions. And there was nowhere left to hide from it. As I walked past Ethan, he stepped aside. Not because he wanted to. Because he had to. For the first time, the role he'd assigned me no longer existed. And neither did the illusion that he was somehow above me. The fallout began the next morning. My mother called repeatedly. Ethan called repeatedly. Voicemails. Texts. Excuses. Blame. Everything except accountability. My father sent only one message. I owe you a conversation. Months later, that conversation became the beginning of real change. Not perfection. Change. My father admitted he had allowed the family dynamic to continue because it was easier than confronting it. My mother struggled the most. She viewed honesty as humiliation. But eventually even she began to understand that respect matters just as much as love. Ethan had the hardest lesson. One of the business contacts he'd invited to impress witnessed everything in the lobby. The deal collapsed shortly afterward. Not because of me. Because people pay attention to character. Especially when nobody realizes they're being watched. Today my company continues growing. Our portfolio has expanded. Our leadership team has grown. And I've spent years mentoring young women entering hospitality. But the biggest lesson wasn't business. It was personal. I learned that success isn't proving people wrong. It's refusing to let their opinion define you. Because sometimes the people closest to you will be the last ones to recognize your value. Build anyway. Grow anyway. Keep moving anyway. One day, the life you create will speak so loudly that no one will be able to ignore it. And when that day comes, remember something important. You don't need revenge. You don't need validation. You don't need permission. You only need the courage to keep building when nobody is clapping. Because eventually, the truth introduces itself.